This is the In Focus podcast from The Hindu.
Hello and welcome to the Hindus in Focus podcast with me, Amit Baruah, your host for this episode. Pakistan's new Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has his task cut out for him. From steering the economy out of choppy waters to dealing with a belligerent opposition that continues to contest the results of February's general elections, Mr. Sharif has to show that he's up to the job. As cabinet formation and election of a new president await Pakistan, Mr. Sharif will also be watched for his ability to deal with the country's permanent establishment, the army. Will the fact that he has more patience than his brother Nawaz Sharif allow for political stability in governance? To discuss these issues, I am joined from Karachi by Shahzeb Jillani, co-host of Dawn TV's current affairs show Zara Hut Kay. Welcome to the In Focus podcast, Shahzeb.
Thank you, Amit. Pleasure to be here.
Shahzeb, what do you think are the principal challenges before Shehbaz Sharif?
Well, as you say, economy is a huge challenge. When he was the prime minister for a year and a half last year, the country was facing a default. He says that his biggest accomplishment is to avoid a Sri Lanka-like default and putting the economy on a relatively firmer ground. So economy is a big challenge. Holding a coalition will be a challenge because there are big or small other parties. He relies on them for his support. As you well understand, India has a long experience with coalition governments. You kind of live day to day. There is very little security in the job. You suddenly face no confidence motions and things like that. So holding the coalition will be a big challenge. He will have to grapple with a very loud and dismissive opposition who believe that his election is disputed. He has become the prime minister because the Pakistani army backed them and stole the popular mandate. So, for example, an indication of that is that one of the chief ministers of the PTI-backed independent party in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has already said that he will not attend any meetings with the prime minister. And he he actually proved that when the prime minister went to Peshawar this week, the chief minister was nowhere to be seen. And the chief minister is openly saying that I do not recognize him as a prime minister, and I will not attend meetings by this prime minister. So he will have to grapple with that kind of situation. His challenges are huge, as you can imagine.
So on the economy specifically, Shahzeb, we see that one of the first things that came out of a meeting that Shehbaz Sharif held with some economic functionaries that talks with the IMF are a priority for the government. So what's happening on that front?
So look, the economists we have been talking to have pretty much said that Pakistan has no option but to go into another IMF program. The current standby program ends in April, and there are already discussions about the next program. That effectively means more tough decisions which will be costly in terms of public popularity. It means raising energy prices, cutting down subsidies. It means fiscal targets have to be met, and so we are looking at maybe another at least 2 years of tough decision making, which means that people or the public is unlikely to get much relief, right? Already in the last couple of years, the economy has been in doldrums. We've seen record high inflation, and the government is preparing people for more pain along the way before it starts to ease. The IMF seems pretty satisfied with the way things have been handled over the last, I would say, 1.5, 2 years. Their conditions are being met because Pakistan found itself in a corner. It had no option. but to take their advice. So the feeling is that this program will end and Pakistan will then enter into a new program.
You referred, at the beginning to, some of the challenges that Shahbaz Sharif is going to, face in coalition management. Uh, can you run us through what is happening in the four provinces? You mentioned what's happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but can you tell us a little bit about the provincial governments and the challenges that might come from there?
Right. Okay. So the biggest province of Punjab, which where his niece Mariam Nawaz became the first female chief minister, and I think that was part of this wider understanding between Nawaz Sharif's party and the army, that if Nawaz Sharif doesn't become the prime minister, then his daughter is allowed to be the chief minister. Now, she is liked and hated in equal measure. A lot of people who take a dim view of dynastic politics don't like don't like her. They don't like her style. They think she is arrogant. She has a sense of entitlement. But she also represents a new generation of Sharifs. She has very little experience of governance. She was a very close member of Nawaz Sharif's team when he was the prime minister. She became kind of a symbol of resistance when Sharif's party was under pressure by the army. Mariam Nawaz went to jail. She was seen to be, quite steadfast and strong. So she has her pluses and minuses. In Sindh, for example, we now see fourth successive government of the PPP, Zardari's party. They have decided to continue Murad Ali Shah as the chief minister. This is his going to be third term, right? So it is continuation of the same party and the same leadership in Sindh province. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, as I said, Imran Khan backed candidates sweeps through the province. They have a 2/3 majority, a clear majority, a very clear mandate for Imran Khan and his politics and his party. And then he nominated Ali Amin Gandapur, again a controversial politician known for being a bit of a maverick, saying outrageous things. He faced a number of cases, from violence to alcohol to drugs and all sorts of charges against him. But Imran Khan felt he's the most loyal in this environment and nominated him, and he's now the chief minister there. In the province of Balochistan, where the election, many would say, did not really take place because of violence, because of widespread rigging, and frankly, because of disproportionate influence of the army in controlling politics of the province. We've seen Sarfraz Bugti become the chief minister. Now, technically, he is Pakistan People's Party. He joined the party literally like 2 months before the elections. He's somebody who's seen to be very close to the army. He has switched parties at least 4 times in the last 15 years. And his views are, again, close to the military when it comes to tackling insurgency in Balochistan and some of the bigger controversial issues. So technically, it is a coalition government between Nawaz League and People's Party in Balochistan. The chief minister is from People's Party. But I think everyone in Pakistan knows that the politicians there owe their allegiance to the army more than any particular political party or leader.
Shahzeb, coming to Islamabad or to the center in a sense, how do you think this coalition arrangement between the Muslim League Nawaz and the PPP is going to work out, especially since the PPP has opted to remain out of government?
So this is something that bothers PMLN because they feel that they will be taking all the flack for unpopular decisions, and the PPP will kind of place itself in a position where when the PMLN becomes hugely unpopular, then they present themselves as a second alternate. So they are backing Shehbaz Sharif as the prime minister, but so far they've refused to take positions in the cabinet. They may decide to change this decision after a few months, maybe especially after the budget has been presented in June. But in exchange, the PPP has negotiated the president's position and the chairman of the Senate. So tomorrow, which is Saturday, we are supposed to have a presidential election. Asif Ali Zardari is contesting the second time. He has a comfortable majority. His opponent is Mahmood Khan Achakzai, a Pashtun nationalist politician from Balochistan. He's being backed by Imran Khan's supporters. They don't have enough numbers. And I just saw about an hour or two ago Mahmood Khan Achakzai requesting the Election Commission to postpone this election because they are saying many of our reserve seats have not been given to Imran Khan's party, reserve seats for women and non-Muslims. The Election Commission has decided that these seats will be distributed instead among the government coalition partners and other parties. So this is a controversy that's lingering on from last month. And Achakzai is saying that because the Electoral College is incomplete without a decision on these reserve seats, therefore the presidential election should be postponed. We will see what happens. It looks unlikely because even the Prime Minister's election from National Assembly was allowed to go ahead, despite the fact that there was no decision on some of the reserve seats. So in all likelihood, it will go ahead. The current president, Dr. Alvi, has already had his farewell and his guard of honor and everything today. So I think they will proceed with that. But even if it is delayed for a few days, Zardari has a wide margin, a wide majority, and it looks pretty certain that he will be the next president.
And tell us, Shahzeb, how does the PPP work? I mean, is there a clear division of responsibility between Zardari and Bilawal Bhutto? Are they working together? Do they see eye to eye on all issues?
The interesting question. So I think the way they have carved out their roles is that Zardari is obviously the brains. He has long experience of ups and downs with the army. He's been in jail. He's been in exile. He understands the country's power dynamics. The problem is he's seen as widely corrupt in public imagination. He's not seen as a visionary leader. He's not seen anything close to Benazir Bhutto. The popular appeal in public imagination belongs to Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. He's young, he's dynamic, he's articulate, his heart seems to be in the right place. He stands up for progressive causes. And it is between the two of them, they are trying to take the party forward. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is slowly but gradually gaining control of the party, important decisions. But when it really comes to strategic direction, negotiating with opponents, with the army, quid pro quo, you scratch my back, I scratch your backs, cutting those deals which are criticized in the public. Asif Ali Zardari does that. He knows how to do it. He has a long experience of it. So he's credited with keeping the People's Party in power in Sindh province for fourth consecutive term. That has never happened in Pakistan, in any province. It has never happened to any party or any province. So love him or hate him, a lot of people think that he has figured out how this country works and he manages to use it to his advantage.
Shahzeb, to turn to the other important relationship, one of the leaders who emerged, after the Zia's dictatorship has been Nawaz Sharif, and he has been prime minister 3 times and almost prime minister for the 4th time. How do you think, his brother has a reputation for perhaps being more diplomatic and engaging in, backroom negotiations and so on. Given, Nawaz Sharif's fraught relationship with the army in the past, how do you think this government is going to be able to work with the army establishment?
So Nawaz Sharif has not retired. He's very much there. he will be kind of directing his brother, his daughter on the way forward. He decided not to take the leading role, but more like a kingmaker operating from behind the scenes. You're right. The, the the appeal in PMLN party belongs to Nawaz Sharif, right? In fact, during the election campaign, the slogan was that Nawaz Sharif needs to return to power. It was basically his face on the campaign trail. But I think they recognize that Shehbaz Sharif is more flexible, more compliant, more accommodating, and he is dependent on Nawaz Sharif for his political legitimacy and his career. He owes his loyalty to Nawaz Sharif. But as an administrator and as an operator, Shehbaz Sharif is widely acceptable by the army, by the coalition partners, by Asif Zardari, uh, and I think it's true. Nawaz Sharif is often described as somebody who likes things on his terms and conditions, and if that's not the case, then he prefers a confrontation.
It's like a my way or the highway kind of situation.
I mean, somewhat. I mean, not as close to Imran Khan. I think Nawaz Sharif has evolved over the last 3 decades. When he started out, as you pointed out, after Zia, he was very authoritarian. He was almost like a civilian autocrat. But his years in jail and exile brought flexibility in his demeanor, in how he approaches politics. And I would say in the last 10, 15 years, he has shown a lot of maturity when it comes to respecting other people's mandate, not resorting to extra constitutional measures to have his way. But his biggest problem lies with the institution of the army. And they see him as a threat because he's from Punjab. The army mostly comes from Punjab. And they don't like to see strong civilian leaders coming from the same, from the same ground. Shehbaz Sharif they like because he has hardly ever challenged, questioned, or confronted the military. In fact, he has always been very compliant. So this appeared to be a good arrangement that he's acceptable to the current army leadership. He's acceptable to the opposition. The Sharif family gets to continue to be in power. They also managed to bring the second generation into Punjab in a leadership role. So it appeared to be a good compromise. And I personally feel that Shehbaz Sharif may not be a bad choice given where we are, given where politics is, economy is. He's a consensus builder. And maybe that's what you need in a heavily polarized, divided polity. Somebody who reaches out and who is not shy of cutting deals and compromises.
Shahzeb, what's your sense on the likely scenario for civil rights and democratic rights in Pakistan? There are reports of outages of X, and I also see from some international organizations there's a massive increase in the number of VPN requests coming from Pakistan. So could you tell us a little bit about the situation on that front too?
So in the run-up to election, we experienced, internet outages, especially on days when the PTI party was organizing online rallies or fundraisers. It was baffling that the government would cut down, on internet across the board just because one party that they don't like is holding an online activity. It happened over successive weekends, and then the biggest shock was on the election day when they decided to cut down mobile networks and internet connectivity. And since then, as you mentioned, Twitter or X, as it now called, has been disrupted over more than 10 days now. These are all underhanded, high-handed tactics by, we believe, intelligence agencies, because civil rights activists have gone to court in Sindh High Court and other places. And when the government, official government body, which is called Pakistan Telecom Authority, when their officials are called, they're speechless. They have no answer. They often say, well, we don't know how this is happening. or they give very silly excuses that it may be a technical fault or we will find out. So it's pretty clear that somebody somewhere is trying to gain control over cyberspace. We know for a fact that it really rattles our army leadership, our intelligence agencies, because that is one domain they have not been able to conquer. They can control the electronic media, the broadcast media. They can force people into censorship. They can ban certain coverage on TV and so on. But social media and internet has really given them sleepless nights. In fact, the army chief was talking to young people a couple of weeks ago, and he spent a fair amount of time describing social media as satanic media. And he was quoting, verses from the Quran about disinformation, misinformation, and fake news. It really rattles them because it has harmed their reputation. Some would say it has exposed the dodgy dealings, and young people today are far more aware of interference of the army and intelligence agencies in politics, in judiciary, in media, and so on and so forth. So they clearly don't like that, and that is why there's a crackdown. And every now and then, journalists are picked up by law enforcement. We currently have a high-profile YouTuber having been detained by the Federal Investigation Agency. His name is Asad Tur. He has been behind the bars for more than a week. So they do this every now and then to make an example out of working journalists, opinion makers, and I think this will carry on. We don't know if there's the crackdown against human rights activists or journalists. This is a new wave or a new trend, but we muddle along in this country and we try and do our job and push back wherever we can.
Shahzeb Jillani, thank you so much for talking to the Hindus in Focus podcast and for your insights into the challenges before Shehbaz Sharif and the issues that confront Pakistan as a whole.
Thank you, Amit. Always a pleasure.
In Focus will be back soon with analysis of the biggest news issues. In the meantime, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and other platforms. Just search for In Focus by The Hindu. We'll see you soon.